It's another day and another president. Here we are at Southern Methodist University.
Yes.
And as you can tell, it's near capacity at the Bush Library right now. Funnily enough, people in Texas on a football Sunday aren't worried about visiting presidential libraries.
For George W. Bush and Richard B. Cheney.
I proudly accept your nomination. I am proud to have Dick Cheney by my side. I know how serious the task is before me. I know the presidency is an office that turns pride into prayer. But I am eager to start on the work ahead, and I believe America is ready for a new beginning.
What's managed to blow it twice in one night? We don't just have egg in our face, we've got omelet all over our suits.
This race is simply too close to call.
The state of Florida owes it to the country that we make sure that all votes are accurately counted.
The American people voted on November the 7th. The vote here in Florida was very close, but when it was counted, Governor Bush was the winner. 3 days later, the vote in Florida has been recounted. Now, the Gore campaign is calling for yet another recount.
Today, the Bush campaign filed a motion in federal court to stop the hand counting of ballots.
We have considered the petition, and there is no legal impediment to the recounts continuing.
The Supreme Court's clear and unambiguous ruling is a victory for everyone who wants to see the votes counted fully and fairly here in Florida.
Florida's votes have now been counted and recounted. All of those times and all of those counts show that Governor Bush and Secretary Cheney won the state of Florida.
So here we are at the Bush Presidential Library, and right here is information about the election in 2000 and of course the controversy of whether or not Bush won the election. And so here we have an actual voting thing that was used in Florida. And what was the problem with the hanging chads, like those pieces hanging so they couldn't really certify?
Because you had to use that little puncher,
time.
And you punched out
Those
things
cards.
in these cards.
Wild.
all assets at my disposal, within the law, to protect the American people. I ask you to uphold the values of America. We're in a fight for our principles. And our first responsibility is to live by them. I decided it would help if the president showed up to a baseball game right there in New York.
We went to Yankee Stadium for the World Series. That big crowd, the first responders, the firemen and the police, we were still reeling from that terrorist attack. And it was really important to George to show that the president wasn't afraid to be there.
When I'm under the stadium warming up, and Derek Jeter, a great Yankee star, says, "Don't bounce it, they'll boo you."
The President of the United States.
So I'm thinking, don't bounce it, they'll boo you, as I walk out to the mound. Baseball felt like a shot put.
For a strike. And it was pretty terrific.
Baseball, the sport I love, was part of the healing of our nation.
From the heart of New York City.
We just got a report in that there's been some sort of explosion at the World Trade Center in New York City.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against Al-Qaeda terrorist training camps and military installations of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan.
The war in Afghanistan was a new kind of war in response to a new kind of threat.
You are about to select expert advice from a variety of people. Just as President Bush did, you will have to weigh conflicting points of view. On your touchscreen, each of you can record your reaction using the slider bar. At your station, you will see how your reactions may impact your ultimate decision. And here on the main screen, you'll see a combined view of all the players in the field.
What are you going to do,
Okay, we're ready to start.
Go to war.
Work fast, the clock is ticking.
Congress.
Increasing the number of troops in Iraq would be an escalation of an unpopular war. That's going to be a hard sell in Congress. This war is lost. And more troops can't change that. We should leave Iraq as soon as possible.
The only way to win this war is to increase troop levels. Withdrawing troops now would leave a struggling democracy vulnerable to terrorists and insurgents.
Next, choose another advisor. State Department.
We must win the war. If we pull out before a stable democracy is established in Iraq, we will make it more difficult to bring peace and stability.
The war is extremely unpopular in some European countries. Increasing troop levels.
You've listened to all your advisors. Now, you're going to have to come to the decision point. Welcome to Decision Point Theater, sponsored by George W. Bush.
W. Touching tips.
Time is up.
Time's up. It's time to make a decision.
Decision Point Theater, sponsored by George W. What do you think you're doing?
You were asked what to do about the deteriorating situation in Iraq. you had three options. The people in the theater today decided to send additional troops into Iraq with new orders on how to protect the population and support the new democracy. Here's what President Bush did.
I chose to send additional troops into Iraq. Supporting democracy in Iraq was in our national security interests.
I was surrounded by people who were not only smart and hardworking, but knew how to laugh.
The door to the Oval Office has a little peephole. This is Karen Hughes peeping in on me. This is Karl Rove peeping in on me. This is Condi Rice peeping in on me. Spot has her own people.
I was a librarian who spent 12 hours a day in the library, yet somehow I met George. Now, of course, he spends his days clearing brush, cutting trails, taking down trees, or as the girls call it, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Sure.
We live in a remarkable country where people really do feel responsible for their neighbors.
Lauren, I sure appreciate you coming, and we thank you for your time. And we hope that you have a better sense of the presidency, of the guiding principles of my presidency, and we hope that you leave here with a sense of service. It's important to serve your fellow man.
Thanks for coming.